The place where the fox still says goodnight to the rabbit. The idyllic landscape that lets every heart shine. The valley that took its name from the river that runs through it. This is the Emmentaler. The country of Switzerland is known all over the world for its cheese. One of the most famous is the Swiss Emmentaler cheese, the cheese with the holes. But why has a Swiss cheese managed to become so world famous? In the search for the origins and the history of the original Swiss Emmentaler, some interesting facts can be discovered.
We are a cheese country. Switzerland is known as a cheese country all over the world. But we lack around 1,000 years of tradition compared to the Southern Hemisphere. Cheese was already produced in Egypt some 2,000 years ago, similar to today's cream cheese. And the rennet production, meaning as it is known today, the rennet production, it was later discovered by the Romans, as milk used to be transported in sheep and goat stomachs. This changed the milk. The Romans then brought this procedure across the Alps, and it spread throughout the whole of Europe. The production, as it is known here in the Emmental, used to be made in huts like this, known as Titlis. These Titlis were cow Titlis. Families usually had several sons. Those who didn't inherit the farm received money and cows. These sons then climbed the hills during the alpine season and produced cheese in such huts from May to October.
We used to bring in the cows at 2 in the morning. Then we milked them, and at 6 we started to make cheese until noon. We made 30 pieces at 5 kilograms each and stored them in the cellar. At 3 p.m., we brought the cows in to milk again in the evening.
What time did you go to bed?
10 p.m.
You get up at 2 o'clock every day.
Every day for 100 days.
Is that alpine life?
Yes, that's alpine life.
We are surrounded by idyllic landscape in the heart of nature. And yet, alpine life is a hard life.
I think nowadays we could say we have tools that did not exist back then. For this reason, the transport route was certainly very important in those days. We had a great advantage. We had the Emma. One came down from the Alps with the cheese to the Emma. From there, the goods could be transported back and forth between Langnau and Bergdorf.
The Emme, former transport route and still an important water source for the valley today. The Swiss Emmentaler has a long and exciting history behind it, just like the people who have been making it with love for centuries. But what has changed from then to now, and what did the everyday life of a dairy farmer look like?
This is number 17, Winnipeg. She has a tracker on her neck. If it goes in that feeder back there, which is where the receiver is, the machine decides whether the cow should be fed or not, and if so, how much. For example, if a cow should receive 2 kilograms, then 2 kilos are distributed from 1 o'clock at night until 24 o'clock the next night. Then it is reset again. In the earlier days, there were dairymen, Sennen, who went up into the Alps with their cows. In winter, they rented a stable in the valley and bought food from the farmers in the valley. They then continued to produce cheese or butter in their cow Stückli. They sold cream, cheese, and butter to the city and the surroundings. Such was the distribution of roles. The farmer had the food and the farm, and the alpine dairyman came in the winter with his herd. Later, they wanted to make better use of the added value in the valley and produce cheese all year round. So, they founded valley cheeseries. A great advantage was realized around 1813 when customs taxes at the border were paid per piece and not per kilogram. So they made big Emmentaler cheese that was only taxed once. Emmentaler cheese is a dry rind cheese. In the past,
There were no refrigerator options during transport. An Emmentaler that lays in the sun only gets more holes and gets bigger. A Gruyere or Appenzeller that is in the sun collapses because of the bacteria. So, it was a technical advantage for the Emmentaler that made it attractive for export. And secondly, it was the price, so they made it clever with customs charging once and not 10 times. I believe that Emmentaler has become world famous because of its size. This measure does not exist anywhere else. Huge, 100 kilograms, made from raw milk. So the milk is not treated, not pasteurized. And of course, it is very well known for the holes in the cheese due to the special fermentation. This was never used in any cheese such as mountain cheese, etc. It didn't exist back then. That's what it was. And of course, the passion of the dairymen, the farmers, the cheesemakers, and their cooperation. All of this achieved a quality that was unique and still is today. It's totally clear. Because Emmentaler is the famous Swiss cheese with holes, you, I would say, expect a kind of Heidi world. But here, you get a reality that is more beautiful than the Heidi world. So, basically said, all cliches concerning cheese and Switzerland are not cliches here. It's a true story, and it's alive. This is the big difference between our Emmentaler and all the other Emmentalers that exist.
Most people know that Swiss banks store a lot of gold, but that the real Swiss gold lies in the cellars of our cheesemakers is something few people know. A total of 320 original Swiss Emmentaler lay here in this very cellar and are slowly becoming a real Swiss delicacy. Thank you very much.